Section 16 of The American Rivals of Sherlock Holmes. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The American Rivals of Sherlock Holmes. The Campaign Grafter by Arthur B. Reeve. Part 1. What a relief it will be when this election is over and the newspapers print news again, I growled as I turned the first page of the Star with a mere glance at the headlines. Yes, observed Kennedy, who was puzzling over a note which he had received in the morning mail. This is the bitterest campaign in years. Now, do you suppose that they are after me in a professional way, or are they trying to round me up as an independent voter? The letter which had called forth this remark was headed "The Travis Campaign Committee of the Reform League," and as Kennedy evidently intended me to pass an opinion on it, I picked it up. It was only a few lines, requesting him to call during the morning, if convenient, on Wesley Travis, the candidate for governor, and the treasurer of his campaign committee, Dean Bennett. It had evidently been written in great haste in longhand the night before. "Professional," I hazarded. "There must be some scandal in the campaign for which they require your services." "I suppose so," agreed Craig. "Well, if it is business instead of politics it has at least this merit. It is current business. I suppose you have no objection to going with me." Thus it came about that not very much later in the morning we found ourselves at the campaign headquarters, in the presence of two nervous and high-keyed gentlemen in frock coats and silk hats. It would have taken no great astuteness, even without seeing the surroundings, to deduce instantly that they were engaged in the annual struggle of seeking the votes of their fellow citizens for something or other, and were nearly worn out by the arduous nature of that process. Their headquarters were in a tower of a skyscraper, whence poured forth a torrent of appeal to the moral sense of the electorate, both in printed and oral form. Yet there was a different tone to the place from which I had ordinarily associated with political headquarters in previous campaigns. There was an absence of the old-fashioned politicians and of the air of intrigue laden with tobacco. Rather, there was an air of earnestness and efficiency which was decidedly prepossessing. Maps of the state were hanging on the walls, some stuck full of various colored pins denoting the condition of the canvass. A map of the city in colors, divided into all sorts of districts, told how fared the battle in the stronghold of the boss, Billy McLaughlin. Huge systems of card indexes, loose-leaf devices, labor-saving appliances for getting out a vast mass of campaign literature in a hurry. In short, a perfect system, such as a great, well-managed business might have been proud of, were in evidence everywhere. Wesley Travis was a comparatively young man, a lawyer who had early made a mark in politics, and had been astute enough to shake off the thraldom of the bosses before the popular uprising against them. Now he was the candidate of the Reform League for governor, and a good stiff campaign he was putting up. His campaign manager, Dean Bennett, was a business man whose financial interests were opposed to those usually understood to be behind Billy McLaughlin, of the regular party to which both Travis and Bennett might naturally have been supposed to belong in the old days. Indeed, the Reform League owed its existence to a fortunate conjunction of both moral and economic conditions demanding progress. "Things have been going our way up to the present," began Travis confidentially, when we were seated democratically with our campaign cigars lighted. "Of course we haven't such a big barrel as our opponents, for we are not frying the fat out of the corporations, but the people have supported us nobly, and I think the opposition of the vested interests has been a great help. We seem to be winning, and I say seem, only because one can never be certain how anything is going in this political game nowadays. You recall, Mr. Kennedy, reading in the papers that my country house out on Long Island was robbed the other day.
Some of the reporters made much of it. To tell the truth, I think they had become so satiated with sensation that they were sure that the thing was put up by some muckrakers and that there would be an exposé of some kind. For the thief, whoever he was, seemed to have taken nothing from my library but a sort of scrapbook or album of photographs. It was a peculiar robbery, but as I had nothing to conceal, it didn't worry me. Well, I had all but forgotten it when a fellow came into Bennett's office here yesterday and demanded—tell us what it was, Bennett. You saw him."
Bennett cleared his throat. "You see, it was this way. He gave his name as Harris Hanford and described himself as a photographer. I think he has done work for Billy McLaughlin. At any rate, his offer was to sell us several photographs, and his story about them was very circumstantial. He hinted that they had been evidently among those stolen from Mr. Travis, and that in a roundabout way they had come into the possession of a friend of his without his knowing who the thief was. He said that he had not made the photographs himself, but had an idea by whom they were made; that the original plates had been destroyed, but that the person who made them was ready to swear that the pictures were taken after the nominating convention this fall, which had named Travis. At any rate, the photographs were out, and the price for them was $25,000.
"What are they, that he should set such a price on them?"
asked Kennedy, keenly looking from Bennett quickly to Travis. Travis met his look without flinching.
"They are supposed to be photographs of myself," he replied slowly. "One purports to represent me in a group on McLaughlin's porch, at his farm on the south shore of the island, about 20 miles from my place. As Hanford described it, I am standing between McLaughlin and J. Cadwallader Brown, the trust promoter who is backing McLaughlin to save his investments. Brown's hand is on my shoulder, and we are talking familiarly. Another is a picture of Brown, McLaughlin, and myself riding in Brown's car, and in it Brown and I are evidently on the best of terms. Oh, there are several of them, all in the same vein. Now," he added, and his voice rose with emotion as if he were addressing a cart-tail meeting which must be convinced that there was nothing criminal in riding in a motor car, "I don't hesitate to admit that a year or so ago I was not on terms of intimacy with these men, but at least acquainted with them. At various times, even as late as last spring, I was present at conferences over the presidential outlook in this state, and once I think I did ride back to the city with them. But I know that there were no pictures taken, and even if there had been I would not care if they told the truth about them. I have frankly admitted in my speeches that I knew these men, but my knowledge of them and breaking from them is my chief qualification for waging an effective war on them, if I'm elected. They hate me cordially. You know that. What I care about is the sworn allegation that now accompanies these fakes. They were not, could not have been taken after the independent convention that nominated me. If the photographs were true I would be a fine traitor. But I haven't even seen McLaughlin or Brown since last spring. The whole thing is a—"
"Lie from start to finish," put in Bennett emphatically.
"Yes, Travis, we all know that. I'd quit right now if I didn't believe in you. But let us face the facts. Here is the story, sworn to as Hanford says, and apparently acquiesced in by Billy McLaughlin and Cad Brown. What do they care, anyhow, as long as it is against you? And there, too, are the pictures themselves. At least they will be in print or suppressed, according as we act. Now you know that nothing could hurt the reform ticket worse than to have an issue like this raised at this time. We were supposed at least to be on the level, with nothing to explain away. There may be just enough people to believe that there is some basis for this suspicion to turn the tide against us. If it were earlier in the campaign I'd say accept the issue, fight it out to a finish, and in the turn of events we should really have the best campaign material. But it is too late now to expose such a knavish trick of theirs on the Friday before election. Frankly, I believe discretion is the better part.